The forest was alive under the silver glow of the moon. Shadows stretched long and thin across the soft moss, each step of her bare feet making barely a whisper. She could feel it, a pull in her chest, subtle yet insistent, like the heartbeat of the night itself. It was a bond she had tried to ignore for years, denying its existence as fiercely as she denied the longing that throbbed beneath her ribs. Her eyes flicked to the tree line, scanning the darkness, though she knew it was foolish. He would appear whether she was ready or not. The wind carried a scent she could never forget, the mixture of pine, iron, and something uniquely his, the alpha, her alpha. I won't let this happen, she muttered, voice trembling despite her defiance. The words were more for herself than the empty woods, a fragile shield against the pull she could not control. And then he stepped into the moonlight. The moment she saw him, every rational thought scattered. Broad shoulders, scarred hands, eyes that glimmered with a mix of storm and fire. He was impossibly dangerous and impossibly hers. You feel it too, he said softly, not a question but a statement. His voice cut through the night like the edge of a knife, familiar and commanding all at once. Every heartbeat, every breath. Denying it won't change anything. She turned her gaze away, forcing herself to focus on the moonlit path ahead. I won't, she whispered. Denial was all she had left. Accepting him, accepting the bond, meant surrendering a part of herself she wasn't sure she could give. He moved closer, silent as the shadows. You don't have to surrender anything, just stop running. There was an ache in his tone, a mixture of longing and frustration that made her chest tighten painfully. Her hands clenched at her sides. I'm not running, I'm choosing. But the lie was thin, brittle. Even as she said it, she felt the pull tighten, coiling around her like a silver leash she could neither see nor break. You can't choose this, he murmured, his eyes never leaving hers. The bond chooses for us, whether we fight it or not. A shiver ran through her, the cold of the forest brushing against her skin. But it was nothing compared to the heat blooming in her chest. Her wolf growled in protest, a low, rumbling sound that mirrored the storm in her heart. She had fought it for so long, but every instinct in her body screamed that he was not merely a danger. He was inevitable. Lightning split the distant clouds, a flash illuminating his silhouette, and in that moment she realized that denial was no longer an option. But the fear of what would come next gripped her like icy fingers, and just as she opened her mouth to run, he stepped closer, his shadow falling over hers. You can try to deny it, but I will find you, always. The forest held its breath, and she did too, knowing that nothing would ever be the same again. The night after their encounter, the pack was alive with murmurs. Even from the safety of her small, hidden room in the pack house, she could feel it, the subtle shift in the air, the quiet tension that wrapped around every wolf like an invisible thread. Word traveled fast, faster than any human could imagine. Whispers of a mate denied, a bond unclaimed, had begun to circulate. Her pulse quickened when she heard the faint creak of footsteps outside her door. She pressed her back against the wooden wall, heart hammering. Her wolf prowled beneath her skin, restless, sensing danger and curiosity alike. They all know. Footsteps paused, a shadow lingered, and then a voice, low, cautious, just above a whisper. She can't hide it forever. It said, the bond, it's too strong. Her stomach twisted. Someone had already seen or perhaps smelled what she could not deny to herself. She had been careful, meticulous, even deceptive in her attempts to appear normal, but the bond pulsed beneath her veins like wildfire, impossible to mask. She pressed a hand to her chest, feeling the familiar thrum, and then a shiver ran down her spine. Moonlight spilled through the narrow window, silver and cold, illuminating the tense set of her shoulders. I can't let anyone know, not yet, not him. Yet even as she tried to convince herself of safety, the forest outside seemed to echo the danger she feared. Every rustle of leaves, every distant howl carried a warning. The alpha's presence lingered like a phantom, and she could feel his eyes on her, even from afar. The bond between them pulsed invisibly, a living thing that neither time nor distance could diminish. She rose from her bed, moving to the window, peering out at the woods shrouded in shadows. Why can't I just forget it? She whispered into the night. Why does it pull at me, even when I resist? A sudden noise made her spin. A small, familiar shape slinked into the moonlight. It was one of the younger pack members, eyes wide with curiosity and mischief. "They're saying the Alphas." "Back," the wolflet murmured, voice trembling. "And that he's looking for someone, you." Her chest tightened. She hadn't thought it possible for the world outside her thoughts to intrude so directly into her life. Her wolf growled, low and warning, but her human mind froze. She wasn't ready, not yet. She backed away from the window, her reflection staring back at her, eyes wide, lips slightly parted, cheeks flushed. The bond throbbed, insistent, undeniable, and now the pack itself was watching. The whispers were growing louder, like storm clouds rolling across the sky, threatening to break and drown her carefully constructed defenses. Moonlight streamed into her room again, softer this time, as if mocking her attempts to hide. Her wolf snarled softly in protest, and she knew, with a sinking certainty, that denial would not protect her. The Alpha would not wait forever, and somewhere beyond the walls of the pack house in the darkened forest, he already knew exactly where she was. The forest had never felt so alive. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig seemed amplified under the heavy weight of her own heartbeat. She hadn't dared leave the pack house since the whispers had begun, but the Alpha's presence now pulled at her senses in a way she couldn't ignore. And then he appeared. From the shadows, tall and commanding, he emerged with the same precision and ease that had made her knees weak years ago. Scars ran along his forearms, evidence of battles fought and won, but it was his eyes, stormy amber, burning with a fire that seemed to see through her, that stole her breath. "You didn't expect me," he said, voice low, calm, yet carrying an edge that made the hairs on her arms stand. I wasn't expecting you," she admitted, her words trembling despite her attempts at control. The lie sounded hollow even to her ears. Her wolf stirred beneath the surface, restless, growling softly at the tension crackling between them. He took a step closer, and the air seemed to vibrate with their unspoken connection. "I always return, always." His gaze never wavered, and it was as if the world itself had narrowed to just the two of them. She swallowed hard, trying to force herself to look away, but his eyes held her. Every instinct screamed that this was dangerous, that accepting even a single step closer would undo all the careful denial she had maintained for so long. "You're changed," she finally whispered, the words almost lost under the wind that rustled the trees. "The pack. You. Scarred," he interrupted, a hint of humor tugging at the corners of his mouth. "But it was only a fraction of the warmth beneath the storm. Yes, and stronger, but not for myself, for them, for you." Her chest tightened. The words, simple as they were, carried a weight she could not deny. She had fought for years against this pull, this bond, and yet here he was, the embodiment of inevitability. Her wolf whimpered in frustration, and she knew her own resistance was crumbling. A sudden movement in the shadows, a younger pack member watching them, died and frozen, reminded her of the stakes. The pack had noticed, and the whispers would not be quiet for long. She had tried to hide, to deny, but now she realized the bond wasn't something she could escape. It was alive, relentless, and undeniably his. The Alpha stepped closer, closing the distance between them. His scent filled her senses, a mixture of earth, iron, and something primal that made her heart race. "You can deny it all you want," he murmured, voice low, almost a growl, "but I will find you, always." Her throat tightened. The denial she clung to felt fragile, like glass ready to shatter. I'm not ready," she breathed, and yet the tremor in her voice betrayed the truth she could not speak aloud. Part of her had always been waiting for this moment. He reached out, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. The touch was electric, igniting every nerve along her spine. "You'll never be ready," he whispered, close enough that his breath ghosted over her lips. "And that's why I'm here." Lightning flashed over the distant trees, illuminating the intensity in his eyes and the trembling of her own. In that brief, blinding moment, she understood. Denial had been a fragile shield, and it was about to break. The pack house felt smaller than ever. Shadows clung to the corners, whispering secrets that no one dared speak aloud. She moved carefully through the hallways, senses on high alert. Every wolf's glance seemed to carry a question, every hushed tone a warning. She could feel the bond thrumming beneath her skin, insistent and urgent, pulling her toward him even when her mind screamed against it. He was there, of course, leaning against the doorway of the training hall, arms crossed, eyes sharp as a predator's. Even from across the room, the pull between them was palpable, a living thread that neither could sever. "You've been avoiding me," he said softly, though the statement carried the weight of a demand. I've been busy," she replied, though her voice wavered. Lies were useless here. He could read her like an open book, every secret hidden in her heartbeat, in the way her wolf stirred beneath her skin. He stepped closer, and the air around them seemed to crackle. Busy or afraid, his gaze pierced her, amber eyes flickering with something deeper possessiveness, longing, and a patience stretched thin. She hesitated, then exhaled slowly, letting the truth slip past her lips in a whisper. "There are things you don't know, things I can't tell anyone." The alpha's expression softened, but the intensity never left his eyes. "I don't need to know everything to feel the truth. I can feel it. The power you hide, the bond, it's all a part of you, and it's part of me." Her heart skipped a beat. She had tried to conceal her lineage, the subtle mark of the old curse that ran through her bloodline, the same curse that had made her deny him all these years. And now, in his presence, the hidden strength in her veins pulsed insistently, impossible to ignore. "You don't understand," she said, taking a step back. "It's dangerous. If the pack knew, if anyone knew, then they'll know soon enough," he murmured, stepping into her space. "But I'm not afraid, and neither should you be. Whatever is in your blood, whatever bond ties us, we face it together, always." Her wolf growled low, a warning and a plea wrapped into one. She wanted to run, to hide, to pretend she could resist, but every nerve screamed the truth she couldn't speak aloud. She had been wrong to think she could deny him. A noise at the door made her start. A rival pack member, someone she barely trusted, lingered with a smirk, eyes flicking between them like a hawk circling prey. "You two have secrets," the intruder said, voice silky with mockery. "And everyone's dying to know them." The tension in the room thickened, pressing against her chest like stone. She felt the alpha's presence tighten around her, protective and possessive, his hand brushing hers, fingers brushing, a silent warning to anyone who dared challenge what was theirs. Her pulse thundered. The bond between them was no longer invisible. It pulsed with power, danger, and an inevitability she could no longer fight. And as the shadows of secrets pressed closer, she realized that hiding would only make the inevitable claim all the more overwhelming. The moonlight spilled through the window, illuminating them both, and she knew with trembling certainty that nothing, not fear, not lies, not denial, could stop what was coming. The training yard was alive with movement. Wolves shifted seamlessly between human and beast, muscles coiling and uncoiling as they sparred and patrolled. She stayed at the edge, pretending to watch the drills, though her eyes betrayed her focus, drawn irresistibly to him. He moved with lethal grace, commanding attention without effort. Every step, every glance, seemed to carry a weight meant only for her. The bond pulsed like a quiet drumbeat, growing louder with each subtle brush of his hand against the packmate he passed, each flicker of amber eyes toward hers. She turned her gaze away, forcing herself to focus on the wooden fence, the falling leaves, anything but the magnetic pull between them. But it was impossible. Every stolen glance, every fleeting proximity ignited sparks that ran straight to her core. Her wolf prowled beneath her skin, restless, aware, aching for the touch she dared not give. He caught her eye from across the yard, and for a heartbeat, the world shrank to the space between them. The smallest lift of his brow, the curve of his jaw, carried unspoken words she couldn't deny. "I see you. You are mine, whether you resist or not." A sudden whistle broke the spell. One of the pack elders barked an order, and she moved instinctively, leaving him a fraction of distance to spare. Yet even in motion, her heart raced with the thrill of danger, of being seen, of being claimed in ways she could not yet voice. Later, under the silver glow of the moon, she found herself on the balcony overlooking the training yard. He approached silently, footsteps soft as a whisper on the stone floor. "You watch too closely," he murmured, voice low, intimate, carrying a warmth that made her knees tremble. I can't help it," she admitted, turning her gaze away, cheeks flaming. "It's distracting." His lips twitched in amusement, or thrilling, her breath caught. His nearness, the amber fire in his gaze, the subtle brush of his hand against the railing near hers. It was a magnetic pull she could neither deny nor fight. Every nerve in her body screamed to lean in, to feel the truth of him, but she forced herself to step back, to cling to the fragile illusion of control. "You know the pack is watching," she whispered, voice trembling. We don't care who watches," he interrupted, voice a low growl. "No one can touch what's already ours. The bond is visible to us alone. Everyone else is blind." Her wolf growled beneath her skin, thrilled and frustrated in equal measure. She wanted to run, to hide, yet her body betrayed her with every inch closer he took. A flicker of moonlight caught the edge of a scar on his jaw, a reminder of battles fought, of strength forged, and she felt an unspoken promise. He would protect her, claim her, even if the world tried to deny them. A sudden rustle in the shadows, a rival from the pack, lurking too close, eyes sharp and calculating, pulled her out of the moment. The tension snapped, but not the bond. He reached for her hand, brushing it once, deliberately, in a claim that left no room for denial. She could only inhale sharply, heart pounding, and stare into his eyes, knowing that every glance, every stolen touch, was a prelude to something unstoppable. The night stretched on, silent witnesses to a forbidden tension that could not remain hidden for long. And she understood, with a quiet, terrifying certainty, that every glance, every fleeting brush of proximity, was a step toward the inevitable. The packhouse corridors felt tighter than usual, walls closing in with whispered threats and hidden glances. She moved cautiously, senses straining for any sign of danger. Her wolf prowled beneath her skin, alert, restless. Something had shifted, and it wasn't just the bond pulling at her chest. He was there, of course, but so was someone else, a presence she had hoped to avoid. A rival alpha, tall, imposing, with a grin that was all sharp edges and concealed threats, appeared at the far end of the hall. His eyes lingered on her, a possessive hunger that made her pulse quicken despite herself. "So, this is the one," the rival said smoothly, voice dripping with arrogance. "The mate everyone's been whispering about, the one he wants, so desperately." Her stomach churned. The words weren't just empty taunts. They were a challenge, a provocation meant to ignite fear and temptation in equal measure. She could feel her wolf bristle, instincts screaming to flee or fight. Before she could respond, the alpha appeared beside her, silent and commanding. His hand brushed hers, a deliberate, grounding touch that sent a jolt through her spine. "Step back," he said, voice low, dangerous, "she is mine." The rival chuckled, circling them like a predator testing its prey. "Is she? You've been so careful, so restrained. Maybe she wants more than just you." The words were poison, designed to plant doubt, and for a fleeting second she felt it, the pull of curiosity, the dangerous thrill of attention from someone other than him. Her heart twisted painfully. She had never doubted the bond, not fully, but the rival's words were like a whisper in the dark, coaxing out fears she had tried to bury. The alpha's gaze snapped to hers, sharp and unyielding, and in that look she felt both warning and protection. "Do not tempt her with lies," he growled, stepping between them. "She is mine, and no one will ever claim what belongs to me." The rival smirked, tilting his head. "We'll see about that. Power shifts, loyalties change. Even bonds like yours can be tested." With that, he retreated down the hall, leaving a charged silence in his wake. Her chest heaved. She wanted to run, to hide, but his hand remained over hers, warm and steady. "Do you trust me?" he asked, voice soft now, coaxing rather than commanding. "Yes," she whispered, almost against her will. Her wolf growled, a mixture of relief and frustration, as the bond pulsed stronger than ever. She wanted to believe, but the seed of doubt planted by the rival lingered. He leaned closer, lips just inches from her ear. "Then don't let him get inside your mind. He can't touch you. Only I can." His amber eyes burned into hers, a promise, a warning, and an unspoken claim that made her heart pound uncontrollably. Outside, the pack moved oblivious to the storm brewing between shadows and whispered threats. Inside, the tension hung heavy, a dangerous cocktail of jealousy, desire, and the inevitability of the bond. She knew with trembling certainty that the rival's presence was only the beginning, and that every stolen glance, every whispered threat, would drive her closer into the Alpha's arms. And as the night deepened, she felt the bond pulse beneath her skin, relentless and undeniable. No rival, no pack politics, no fear could change what was already written in their souls. The morning light was pale, struggling to pierce through the thick curtains of the pack house. Yet even the gentle glow couldn't soften the sharp edges of suspicion and fear that had settled over her. Someone had spoken, lies had spread, and the fragile trust she had clung to was now dangling by a thread. She moved quietly through the common room, aware of every glance, every murmur. Her wolf prowled beneath her skin, tense and restless, sensing the shifting alliances, the hidden knives waiting in whispered words. Who would betray me? The thought churned inside her, bitter and suffocating. The Alpha found her at the far corner, leaning against the railing of the inner courtyard. His eyes were dark, troubled, yet unwavering. "You've heard them, haven't you?" His voice was low, almost pained. She nodded, throat tight. Someone said things, lies about you, about me, about us." Her hands clenched at her sides, trembling with frustration and fear. "I don't know who to trust." His jaw tightened. "You trust me." It wasn't a question, it was a statement, an anchor in the storm. Yet even as he said it, she could feel the tension coiling between them, dangerous and raw. "I'll deal with the rest. You focus on us, on what's real." But reality felt fragile, slipping through her fingers like smoke. She had hidden for so long, denied the bond, fought the pull she felt toward him. But now, every whispered word, every sidelong glance from the pack chipped away at her composure. She realized just how exposed she truly was. A sudden voice broke through her thoughts. A packmate she had trusted stepped forward, eyes wide with false innocence. "I just thought you should know. People are questioning the Alpha's judgment. They think he's distracted by you." Her heart plummeted. She had expected whispers, rumors, but betrayal from someone she considered an eye cut sharper than any rival's threat. She felt the heat rise in her cheeks, anger mingling with fear. Her wolf snarled low, warning, protective, furious. He reached for her hand, fingers brushing hers with deliberate reassurance. "Do not listen to them," he said, amber eyes locking onto hers. "Their doubts mean nothing. Our bond is truth. No lies, no betrayal can undo it." But even as he spoke, she could feel the ripple of doubt, the sting of mistrust, threatening to pull her away from him. She wanted to cling to him, to surrender fully to the bond, but fear of being manipulated, of losing control, tightened its grip. The rival Alpha's presence from earlier lingered like a shadow over the pack, feeding tensions, watching for cracks in her resolve. And now, betrayal from within the pack itself reminded her that the world they lived in was far from safe. He stepped closer, wrapping an arm around her protectively, drawing her into his warmth. "We face this together," he whispered. "No one can take what is ours." Her chest heaved, heartbeat pounding in rhythm with the bond that pulsed between them. The shadows of betrayal circled them, threatening to tear everything apart. But she felt the truth beneath the fear. The Alpha would claim her, protect her, and no darkness could sever the tie that bound them. And as the sun broke over the horizon, painting the pack house in pale gold, she realized with trembling certainty that trust could be rebuilt. But the bond was eternal. The training ground was alive with anticipation. Wolves moved with practiced precision, yet every eye was drawn to the two figures at the center, him and the rival. The air was thick, taut, vibrating with unspoken promises and the simmering threat of confrontation. She stood at the edge, heart hammering in her chest, wolf restless beneath her skin. Every instinct screamed both fear and longing. He had claimed her, silently, in ways no one else could see, yet now the world would witness the fire of his dominance. The rival stepped forward, grin sharp and confident, eyes flicking toward her like he might claim her with nothing more than a glance. "You think you can protect her," he taunted, voice dripping with arrogance. "The pack will see, and judge for themselves." The alpha's gaze snapped to her, amber fire burning bright. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he let the silence stretch, a warning that made the rival shift uneasily. Then, with a low, controlled growl, he spoke, "She is mine, and I will defend that claim publicly if necessary." The rival laughed, loud and venomous. "Publicly, that's rich. Let's see if you can back it up." In a sudden motion, the alpha stepped forward, drawing himself to full height. Muscles coiled, eyes fixed on his opponent, and she felt the pull of the bond tighten around her chest like a vice. Her wolf whimpered in anticipation, hungry for the confrontation, for the protection that came from his claim. "Enough games," he growled, voice low and commanding, a sound that made the pack itself fall silent. "I challenge you for her, for the pack. If you want what is mine, face me openly, here, now." Gasps rippled through the gathered wolves. The rival smirked but didn't back down. "So be it," he replied, adopting the stance of a predator ready to strike. The tension erupted into motion. They circled, each movement precise, dangerous, electric. She could feel the heat radiating off him, the raw power of a wolf, ready to protect his mate at any cost. Her chest tightened, every heartbeat echoing the inevitability of their bond. Suddenly, the rival lunged and the alpha met him with unyielding strength, their bodies colliding in a clash of claws and willpower. The world narrowed to the sound of their growls, the spray of earth and leaves, the tension that coiled like a living thing between them. Her breath caught. Every instinct, every stolen glance, every forbidden touch led to this. Their bond displayed not in whispers or hidden moments, but in power, in dominance, in the unshakable claim he had over her heart and soul. The battle was swift, precise, a demonstration of strength and control. And then, just as suddenly it ended, the rival staggered, defeated, retreating with a grudging respect and a warning that this was far from over. The alpha turned to her, chest heaving, eyes blazing, and in that moment the pack itself seemed to fall away. He reached for her, fingers brushing hers, a touch that spoke louder than any words. "No one will take you from me," he whispered, voice low, intimate, protective. Not him, not the pack, not fate itself. Her wolf purred beneath her skin, relieved and elated, while her heart raced with the intensity of the moment. She knew without question that every glance, every stolen touch, every whispered claim had led to this, the public affirmation of a bond that could never be broken. And as he drew her into his arms, the crowd of wolves silent in awe, she realized with trembling certainty, denial was no longer an option. The bond was theirs, unchallenged, unstoppable, and eternal. The moon hung high over the pack house, silver and unyielding, casting long shadows over the assembled wolves. The air was thick with anticipation. Every whisper, every rustle of fur, carried the tension of 1,000 unspoken questions. She stood at the edge of the ceremonial circle, heart pounding, wolf thrumming beneath her skin. Every step toward the center felt like stepping into the inevitable. He appeared beside her, commanding and serene, the alpha whose presence had haunted her dreams and stolen her denial. Amber eyes locked onto hers, blazing with possessiveness and longing. No words were needed. Everything was said in the magnetic pull between them. Tonight, his voice rolled over the pack, deep and unwavering. "I claim what has always been mine." Gasps rippled through the gathered wolves. Some mouths hung open in shock, others narrowed in envy, but all eyes were on them. She felt her chest tighten, every heartbeat echoing the truth of their bond. The alpha's hand brushed hers, deliberately, possessively, and a warmth spread through her that chased away every trace of fear. "You denied it," he continued, gaze never leaving hers, "but the bond cannot be denied. It chooses for us, and it has chosen you, always." Her lips parted, but no sound came. The denial she had clung to for years crumbled under the weight of his words. the intensity in his gaze, the undeniable truth that had always pulsed between them. Her wolf growled softly, a low, satisfied rumble that mirrored the pounding of her heart. The alpha stepped closer, closing the space between them, every movement deliberate, every breath a claim. "Do you accept it?" he asked, voice low, intimate, only for her. "Do you accept me? As your alpha, as your mate, as the one who will protect you and claim you forever?" Tears pricked her eyes, the pack faded away, the whispers and stares became irrelevant. Only his presence mattered, only the bond that had pulled her toward him through years of denial. I accept," she whispered, voice trembling, barely audible above the silence. The alpha's smile was a flash of fire and relief. He cupped her face, eyes burning with devotion and possessiveness, and the bond surged visibly between them, a shimmering pulse that radiated across the circle, leaving no doubt in anyone's mind. He claimed her publicly, definitively, unarguably. Rival wolves lowered their heads in grudging respect. The pack elders nodded, murmuring approval, but none dared question the force of the bond before them. She felt the weight of years of denial lift, replaced by an exhilaration and certainty she had never known. He leaned closer, voice soft against her ear. "No one will ever take you from me." Her wolf whimpered in contentment, her human heart trembling with joy and relief. She had fought, denied, and hidden from this truth, but now it was undeniable. The bond had chosen, the alpha had claimed, and she was his, completely, irrevocably, and forever. As the pack celebrated, she allowed herself to rest against him, body and soul entwined with the alpha who had always been hers. In the moonlight, she understood, denial was meaningless. Claiming was destiny. And destiny finally had arrived. The night air was cool and fragrant, carrying the scent of pine, earth, and the lingering warmth of the pack's celebration. Laughter and howls echoed softly in the distance, a chorus of approval and joy. She walked beside him, hand in hand, feeling the steady pull of the bond that now tied them together forever. The alpha's presence was a constant, comforting weight at her side. Every step, every breath resonated with the certainty of their connection. No more whispers, no more denial. She belonged to him, and he belonged to her, in ways the world could not unravel. "Can you believe it?" she murmured, voice soft, almost lost in the rustle of leaves. "All of this, it's real." He smiled, amber eyes warm and fierce. "It has always been real. You just needed to see it for yourself." His hand tightened over hers, a grounding, protective gesture that made her heart soar. "And now everyone knows. Our bond is no longer a secret. No one can challenge it. Not rivals, not pack politics, not fate itself." The moon rose higher, silver light spilling across the forest clearing. Alone together, yet never truly alone, they stepped into the quiet embrace of the woods, leaving behind the eyes of the pack and the shadows of whispered doubt. The bond pulsed, visible now only to them, vibrant and alive, threading through every beat of their hearts. He stopped, turning to face her. His hands cupped her face, thumb brushing gently over her cheek. "This is just the beginning," he said softly. "Fate brought us together, but life is ours to shape, together." Tears pricked her eyes, a mix of relief, joy, and overwhelming love. She leaned into him, resting her forehead against his chest, feeling the strength and warmth that had always been her anchor. Together, she whispered, letting the words sink into her soul. The pack's distant celebrations faded into the background as they embraced under the moonlight. Her wolf purred beneath her skin, content, fulfilled, finally at peace. She had feared, denied, and fought the inevitable, but the bond had endured, unbroken and unyielding. He pressed a gentle kiss to her temple, a promise and a claim entwined. "Fated," he murmured, "forever." And in that quiet, magical moment, she understood the truth she had spent years resisting. Love, destiny, and bond, once denied, could not be undone. The alpha had claimed her, publicly and irrevocably. They were hers and his alone, bound by a force stronger than fear, stronger than doubt, stronger than time itself. As the forest whispered around them and the stars blinked softly overhead, she finally surrendered fully to the bond. They walked forward together, hand in hand, hearts aligned, wolves and humans intertwined, ready to face whatever the future held. Side by side, fated forever.